No one tells you this, but the reason she keeps falling for emotionally unavailable men isn't bad luck. It's a pattern she's unconsciously choosing. You've seen it happen. Maybe you've lived it. She meets a guy who's distant, hard to read, inconsistent. He doesn't text much. He disappears, then comes back just enough to keep her hooked. And instead of walking away, she leans in harder. She starts overthinking, analyzing every message, waiting for validation that never fully comes. Meanwhile, the guy who's actually stable, consistent, emotionally present, he feels boring to her. There's no spark. No obsession. No emotional high. And that's where the confusion starts. Because on the surface, it looks irrational. Why chase someone who clearly isn't giving you what you need? But psychologically, it makes perfect sense. Attraction isn't just about what feels good. It's about what feels familiar. If someone grew up experiencing inconsistent affection, where love was there one moment and withdrawn the next, their brain wires itself to associate uncertainty with emotional intensity. That push-pull dynamic becomes normal. Even addictive. So when she meets an emotionally unavailable man, her nervous system doesn't see a red flag. It sees a challenge. Something to win. Something to fix. And every small sign of attention from him, a late-night message, a rare compliment, a moment of vulnerability, hits like a dopamine spike. It feels earned. It feels meaningful. That's the beginning of the validation loop. She starts investing more. Giving more. Adjusting herself to fit his emotional distance. Not because she's weak, but because her brain is trying to solve a pattern it's been stuck in for years. This is where attachment styles come in. Anxious attachment craves closeness but fears abandonment. Avoidant attachment craves independence but fears intimacy. When these two meet, it creates a cycle that feels intense, almost magnetic. He pulls away, she chases. She gets closer, he distances himself. And every time he comes back, it reinforces the idea that persistence equals love. But here's the part most people don't want to admit. She's not just attracted to him, she's attached to the emotional chaos he creates. Because chaos feels like passion when you don't know what stability feels like. Now let's get brutally honest. A lot of people say they want love. What they actually want is the feeling of being chosen by someone who's hard to get. They don't want peace, they want validation. And emotionally unavailable men are the perfect source of that. Because their attention is scarce. And anything scarce feels valuable. But that value is an illusion. He's not special because he's hard to reach. He's unavailable because he's not capable or willing to meet emotional needs. There's a difference. And ignoring that difference is where self-sabotage begins. Now let's talk about the part no one likes hearing. If you keep choosing emotionally unavailable people, at some level, you're also avoiding real intimacy. Because real intimacy requires vulnerability. Consistency. Emotional exposure. And that's uncomfortable if you're not used to it. So instead, you choose someone who can't fully show up, because it protects you from having to fully show up too. It's a safer kind of pain. You can blame them. You can chase them. You can stay in the cycle without ever facing your own emotional patterns. Now from a gender perspective, this dynamic shows up differently, but the core is the same. Men are often taught to suppress emotions. To stay detached. To avoid vulnerability. So when a man is emotionally unavailable, it's not always calculated. Sometimes it's just how he's been conditioned. But that doesn't make it healthy. Women, on the other hand, are often more emotionally expressive. More relationship-focused. So when they meet a man who is distant, it triggers a need to bridge the gap. She tries to understand him. Fix him. Connect with him. But here's the reality. You can't build a connection with someone who is actively avoiding connection. And the more you try, the more you lose yourself in the process. Now here's the shift that hurts, but frees you. The problem isn't that emotionally unavailable men are irresistible. The problem is that emotional availability feels unfamiliar. And people don't trust what they're not used to. So when someone actually shows up consistently, communicates clearly, respects boundaries, it doesn't create anxiety. It creates calm. But if your baseline is chaos, calm feels like boredom. That's the moment where most people walk away from something healthy, and go back to something toxic. Not because they want pain, but because they don't recognize peace. So what do you do with this? You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop interpreting mixed signals as depth. You stop believing that your effort can change someone who isn't even trying. And more importantly, you start paying attention to how someone makes you feel over time, not just in moments. Because emotionally unavailable people are very good at giving you moments. But relationships aren't built on moments. They're built on patterns. And if the pattern is confusion, anxiety, and emotional hunger, then you're not in love. You're in a loop. Breaking that loop isn't about finding a better person. It's about becoming someone who no longer feels attracted to emotional unavailability. That takes awareness, discipline, and a level of honesty most people avoid. Because it forces you to confront something uncomfortable. You weren't just a victim of their behavior. You were also a participant in the pattern. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Which means you can finally choose differently. Not based on chemistry. Not based on intensity. But based on emotional stability. Because at the end of the day, the love that feels like a roller coaster isn't deeper. It's just more unstable. And sometimes the reason it hurts so much to let go is because you're not losing them. You're losing the version of yourself that kept chasing what was never real.